Good morning. So, we had some excitement over the weekend, and I've got something to show you guys. We're bringing the drone along. So it turns out, as YouTubers go, I'm not a very good one, which you guys all know that because you watch me, but the most exciting day of the year happened on Saturday, and I wasn't here to film it for you. If I would have been, I'd probably have 100,000 views on it already, but nope, I wasn't. So Saturday, my wife and I had a wedding in Chicago, so when I was on my way home, I got a call from a neighbor asking if we had a disc hooked up to a tractor, and I said, no, why? He said, your wheat field's on fire. He's on the fire department, the neighboring fire department, and yeah, this whole wheat field burnt. So if you guys remember back to my harvest videos, there was one where we were sitting right over there working on a combine and saw smoke that way, and Brock took off because he's on the fire department, and our neighbor's field about a mile over that way had caught on fire. And we're 95 or more percent sure that it was arson. And then the next day, another wheat field right across the road from that one caught on fire. And then on Saturday, this is now a month, 2 months almost later, almost 2 months, ours caught on fire. Now there's no standing wheat here. We didn't lose any crop, but there was still straw out here. It was still windrowed. In fact, you can see where it burnt right down where those windrows were. And so anyway, the neighbor called and said, hey, you got this? And I'm like, no, but we got a disc ripper hooked up. Let me call Dad real quick. So I called my dad. He was kind of unconcerned, but I said, hey, you need to go check this out and help. So he went and got our 8R with that disc ripper and started chiseling because they were worried about that barn down there because the fire was really close to that barn. It started right here in this corner, probably right over there. And yeah, this had to be a massive, massive fire. It went all the way over to those trees over there, clear across the field. It was really windy on Saturday. It was dry. It was before it rained here. Yesterday we had a half inch or so of rain, so pretty scary deal. Not good. The straw, the windrows getting burned off. Actually, probably not the worst thing in the world because it's almost Labor Day and they don't have it baled yet, and it's just been a struggle with all the rain that we had back in July. So yeah, crazy. Anyway, I brought the drone. We're going to take the drone up and get a little bird's eye view of the fire damage here. Let's go. I know you can't see that because, well, I can't really see it. I know where it is, but anyway, crazy amount of fire damage there. So we're gonna go fly around, look at some of our other fields that are close here while we got it up in the air. right, well, cool. We got a little crop scouting in there. I ran off full battery out. We're gonna probably take that back and charge it up and grab a different battery. Go do some more flying today, looking at some stuff. But wanted to drive out here a little bit and see what we've got. We got to figure out what we're gonna do with the rest of this field that didn't burn. Hopefully they can get the straw baled off this week. Hopefully, but we'll see. You can see here where it burnt. It's gone. Mostly in these windrows where it had plenty of fuel, and I'm sure it raced right across there. It had to be just huge fire. This corner of the field here didn't burn too bad or at all. You can see that in the drone images there. Dad, like I said, he was out here with the ripper, and so somewhere, yeah, right here, he kind of made a few passes and made a fire barrier, I guess, if you will, to keep it from spreading through there. Even here where it didn't burn in between, it still burnt the windrows out. I think we're gonna have to hook the mower up to the 7520 and try and mow some of this stuff down, especially, you know, around where Dad worked it, stuff that would have gotten water sprayed down it from the fire departments. There were 4 fire departments out here fighting this fire on Saturday, so just a pathetic waste of resources for no reason whatsoever other than somebody thought it was funny. You know, did it cost us anything agronomically? We lost some organic matter from the straw getting burnt off, but it probably actually did us more benefit than harm because it got the residue off of the field that was going to be a challenge to work with. But it didn't need to happen, and that's pointless. So I don't know. We'll deal with it best we can, and hopefully next week after Labor Day, they're going to spread chicken litter on this field, so at least that's the plan. We're down here by that barn. You can see Dad chiseled these endrows up big time, trying to keep the fire from getting there. That was primary concern when he got here. He said it was racing across this field and getting real close to that barn, and I imagine the fire department was focusing in this area, trying to keep it from getting here too. So big help getting some dirt worked up where it didn't have any fuel to burn, but you can see it got right to that edge. Driving by some more of our fields here. That's where Dad's been moving some dirt. I'm going to take you over there and show you that update in a minute. But I was just looking at this cornfield from the edge of the field, or the edge of the road, and it looks tough, to say the least. This is 108-day corn. It was planted fairly early. It was in April, one of the earliest fields that we planted. But it's dying, and I'm going to show you why it's dying. I don't know if I want to walk out here. It might be wet, but look at these leaves. Absolutely loaded with tar spot. All those little black specks there is what is a disease. It's called tar spot, and it's decimating this corn. Just decimating it. All the brown leaves up high especially are because of the tar spot. This field did get sprayed with a fungicide, but early. This was a V5, 6, 7, somewhere in there. So when the corn was maybe a foot to 18 inches tall, did not do a tassel fungicide. Definitely should have. I mean, way up high, these leaves are just coated with tar spot. This is the heaviest infestation I have seen anywhere. This is a very aggressive disease, tar spot. It moves and progresses very quickly. We've had it in the past, but it's always been super late, like end of September, October before we've seen it. This year it came in early, and it takes about 3 to 4 weeks for the first lesion that you see, or the first tar spot, and to the point where it gets to about like this or worse, and the plant is just dead. There's also some northern. You can see these long cigar-shaped lesions on the leaves as well. That was northern that's now getting tar spot on it. As far as what it's going to do to the yield, I'm not real sure. We'll find out. There's still decent ears out here, but it's probably not good. All right, now for an update on this field. Remember, this is that driveway. I talked about it in a video last week one day when I was bringing Dad up here, that we had a real long sloped incline coming off the road to get to this filter strip and lane that runs along the ditch here, or the river, and Dad wanted to fix it. So he's been peeling dirt off the riverbank, using his scrapers to fill it in this low ground. There was kind of a natural drain into the river over here, and he put a culvert in. I'll go show you the other end of it here in a minute. But there's the outlet where it's going to drain into the river. He's filling all of this in with dirt so that it's is a lot smoother and higher and easier to get trucks and everything in and out. It's probably gonna be a little soft here for a while, but it's got until next fall to settle before we've got to get trucks on it, because this was a wheat field. So that's good. I think he's still doing some more. I think he wants to keep raising this up a little bit, and obviously we're gonna grade it and seed it and make it nice. But yeah, this will be a lot better as it is. He's put several feet of dirt in there. There's the other end of that culvert. So he did dig it out a little bit to put that in there and get it buried. But all the water that comes off of the road here and through this will still be able to make it to the river, since he filled in the natural path. But you can see we're still probably 4 or 5 feet below the road surface to where it sort of flattens out here. So I'm sure he'll grade it off a little more and fill it in some more. Still got a bunch of dirt to peel off over there, so yeah, that's a good deal. I did get a few questions on the last video when I was talking about this, about regulations and we're allowed to just do this. And well, yes, we are. We're on private ground, and we're not doing anything to harm anything. We're making it all better. But yes, we're allowed to do this. There's the double crop beans we sprayed last week with herbicide. Yeah, it worked. The weeds are dying. That's good, and they got their fence put up, so good for them. All right, we'll go do some more field scouting and stuff here this afternoon. My wife and I have been working on selections for our house, and we had gotten some samples of cabinet colors a week or two ago, which now allows us to finally pick a flooring color for the hardwood floor that my dad has made. And I got her to pick one yesterday. So what that means is this big sample flooring thing that I made up here to show her what it's going to look like, I can finish it. So I'm sanding it down here a little bit and just trying to smooth off these edges a little bit, and then we're going to clean it up and put the stain on it and get the finish on here, mostly just so we can have a bigger look at it rather than one little tiny sample board. But I can use this as a step or something. I don't know, I'll find a use for it, I'm sure of it. Okay, I got it all sanded down. This is what we settled on. It's a Varathane briar smoke. So we're gonna coat that, and then after lunch probably come and put a finish coat on it, or a polyurethane floor finish coat. Nice, I like it. So this is yeah, just the stain. You put the stain on and let it set for a minute or two, and then you wipe it off, and that's what we're left with. I really like that color. It's darker than I thought my wife was going to let me do, but she picked a little bit lighter stain for the cabinets, so we decided the floor is going to be darker. That looks great. So we'll let that dry for an hour, it says, and then come back and hit it with this floor finish. This is a Minwax. When we do the actual floor, I'll probably buy the Varathane stuff. I wasn't sure what stain we were going to pick. Most of them were Minwax stains, so I bought the Minwax floor finish. But yeah, we'll get that put on later, just so we have a top coat. Put probably 2 coats of it on, at least, and then we'll have a finished floor sample. All right, well, it's the middle of the afternoon now. I've been working on some seed quotes for some guys, and there's just not a ton going on today, which is perfectly okay. We're gonna go do some more scouting though. So I've got the drone, we charged up the battery, so we got some flight time we can make, and we're gonna do some corn yield checks. We're gonna do that in this video. Let's find 3 or 4 fields. We'll go out, oh, I gotta go get a tape measure. We'll go out and do some stand counts, maybe in a couple of spots in a field, and do some yield calculations, pull 3 or 4 ears from each spot, and I don't know, we'll get a feel for what our corn's doing anyway, and be able to scout and see how bad disease is in different places, how much our fungicide is helping the tar spot issue that we saw a little bit ago, all that good stuff. So we're going to start right behind the buildings here, where is some of our absolute best corn that I'm hoping for a yield check in the high 200s, if not more. All right, we're going to start right here in this middle piece. So here, the farm is on the other side of this little piece here. This has been some of our very best looking corn all year. It was the first stuff we planted. It's looked fantastic, and I have sprayed everything we've had on it. So it got early fungicide, it got all of the foliar feed micro stuff that we put on, it got tassel fungicide, high rates of N, it got everything. The other side over there did not get that stuff. It didn't get early fungicide, it didn't get the micros, it did not get the tassel fungicide. So we're just going to compare right there versus right here and do a yield check and see what stuff looks like. I actually entered this field into the National Corn Growers Contest, dry land in Michigan, corn. We'll see how it does, but I'm really hoping this is going to be very good corn over here. Okay, so what we're going to do here is measure out 17 feet, 5 inches, which is right here. So from there to the end of our tape measure, we're going to count how many harvestable ears there is on these plants on both sides of the row. That'll tell us how many ears we have in 2 1,000ths of an acre. Then we divide that by 2, or we take an average, and we can calculate our standout from that. Just looking at this corn, the upper canopy is healthy. We don't have any disease or too much disease, so our fungicide application worked. We're running out of nitrogen though. It's firing way up. We're dry, and the yellowing of these bottom leaves down the midrib here, we didn't put enough nitrogen on, and I put well over 200 pounds of N on this field. But when you're pushing 300 bushel corn, 200 is not enough, is it? So what the corn does is it relocates the nutrients from the rest of the plant into the ears when we get late in the season like this. So it's drawing and sucking the nutrients out of these bottom leaves and the lower stalk in order to fill out the ear and to make as good of a harvestable ear. You know, it's trying to reproduce, right? So it's trying to keep as many seeds viable as possible. And while that's a good thing, I don't like to see it having to do that. I want to have enough nutrients out there that this corn stays green. We're still working on that. That said, we should still have pretty darn good corn here. So let me do a little counting. Okay, so I got 33 ears on both sides. 33 is good. We're in a little bit of a higher pop zone here, and that's good. That's good. They look good ears for 33,000 of them. So, all right, I'm going to pick 4 of them kind of at random, and we'll take them out and count the kernels on them and do calculation from there. Okay, there's our ears. I picked 5 of them. You can see we've got a little variation. They're not super consistent. This hybrid has some flex to it, so you're going to get a little bit different sized ears. They're not all going to be the same. These 2 are a little smaller. This one's clearly the biggest. These 2 in particular filled out really well, right to the tip. Didn't get hardly any tip back. The other ones we got just a little bit, but those all look excellent. I'm happy with them. So now we've got to do some counting. Let me get my iPad and pull up a spreadsheet, and I'll show you what we're going to do. Okay, so I don't know how well you can see this, but I've made up this spreadsheet here a few years ago that I use for making my calculations for me, because it's easier than doing it all by hand. So we're going to do sample 1 right here. I put in the location and the variety. The population is 33,000. That's the count that we got. 33,000, well, 33 plus 33 divided by 2 is 33 times 1,000. So now we need to count ears 1 through 5. We need to know how many kernels long and how many rows around. So we're going to count the length and the number of rows, and that'll basically tell us how many kernels are on each ear. But we need to input that data for each ear. So let me count those and put that in there. Okay, so these were a little more consistent than I initially thought, just looking at them. Every one of those ears was 14 rows around. There was a little bit of difference in length. We went from 34 to 42 kernels long in a row, so there is some variation, but it's in length, not rows around. They're all 14. 14's not great. We like to see 18s and 20s, but that's a hybrid specific thing. This hybrid apparently throws 14s. It'll be interesting to see what it is over there where it's the same hybrid and just hasn't been treated as much. Maybe we'll find some 12s. Maybe we'll find 16s. I don't know. So I put that information in there. Let me take this over here into the shade where maybe you can see a little bit better. Oh yeah, that's better, I think. If I can keep the shadows or the glare off of it. Okay. So we had a 14 by 38, 1442, 1436, 1440, and a 1434. Now what this does is automatically calculates out my yield based on kernels per bushel, right? So if we assume 90,000 kernels per bushel, which is kind of the standard that most people would use, that's 195 bushel corn. Personally, I think the kernels are going to be bigger than that and heavier, and it's probably going to yield check better than that. So I have it where it'll automatically tell me some other ones as well. If the kernels happen to be smaller, maybe it's only 175. If they're a little bit bigger, 219. If they're really big, 251. Those are good numbers. I'll be happy with those. I thought this particular spot where it's really good corn might be a little higher than that, but it doesn't look quite as fantastic once you get in there as it does on this outside row. You know, we're burning up and we don't have enough nitrogen, basically. So that's how we do that. And now we're going to go over here and fill in location or sample 2. So we got to go count and do the same thing over on the other side. Okay, so we're in the next spot. We're across that little grass area waterway. Looking at the corn, we've definitely got more disease pressure over here. You can see some tar spot, and this is getting into the upper canopy. We did not have this where we sprayed tassel fungicide, so the bottom leaves are even more dead here and hanging down. You can see some gray leaf spot or some other diseases on these lower leaves, and definitely some tar spot. There's a bunch on that leaf right there, starting to really tear this stuff up. So definitely going to be an interesting comparison here where we have a heavier disease pressure than the other side that we protected it, and we don't have that disease pressure. One other thing that I wanted to point out, this was in the other side too, but I didn't think about it. We had 0.2 of an inch of rain last night. I've talked before about how corn is awesome because it's just plants are cool, right, Wade? And corn is like a funnel. So all those leaves are sitting up there, they're upright, and it rained on them. And that leaf funnels all the water right down to the stalk, and it runs down these stalks right to the roots. Can you guys tell how it's wet in the root zone right along the row, but in the center of the row it's dry on top? It's because the corn plants funneled all that rain right to their roots, and so now you can see where they got more rain there, less in the center of the row. Way cool. All right, we got to do some counting and pick some ears and take them back out and go count. Okay, I've got my 5 ears. Definitely got tar spot coming in here. I should get my hand lens, my magnifying glass, so we can zoom in on that and see what it looks like better. All right, well, I don't know if I had some bias in which ears I grabbed or not. I tried not to really look and just feel and grab them. But those are pretty nice looking ears there as well. There was a few less of them. This side, they both rows counted 31,000. So 2,000 less ears per acre is certainly going to make a difference, even if they were the exact same size ears. But we'll count them up and see what the spreadsheet says. Okay, wow. Well, watch this. So these all were 14, except for this one was actually 16 around. So instead of 12s, we saw a little bit more. Even with the 31,000 population, though, those were a little more consistent. We were 14 by 38, 37, 43, 16 by 38, and 14 by 41. Look at the numbers. 251, 220, 195, 176. Remember our first ones? 251, 219, 195, 176. That's about as similar and as close as you are ever going to get. Amazing. So these ears are a little bit bigger, mostly just this one, I think, but with the lower population, it offsets it. Now, I have a hunch here. Let me check something. Not a lot. I thought maybe the first sample of the ear would be a bigger diameter that will have a little better kernel depth, but not a ton of noticeable difference there. So the one to the left is from the first sample. The one to the right is what we just picked. It goes there. Look about the same. One thing you can see is that milk line. So I have talked about this before, but as our corn starts to mature, it goes through different growth stages, and when we are at tassel, we call that VT, and then R1 is when silks emerge. We then go to R2 at the blister stage. R3 is milk stage, where it's like sweet corn stage and the kernels are really milky. R4 is the dough stage, where the kernels then become starchy or like sweet corn that's too far mature or too ripe. And then R5 is beginning dent, where you start to see these little dents in the ends of the kernels. And what's happening is that the kernels are starting to form hard starch, and then there's what we call the milk line, and you can see it almost halfway on all of these kernels all the way around, where it sort of changes color there. So the outside of that kernel is hard and starchy. The inside of it is still liquid and milky or doughy, but much softer. And there's that line, and that line will continue to work its way down towards the tip of the kernel, and when it reaches the tip, it forms a little black layer, and that's what we call black layer, or full maturity. And that's when the plant is basically done. The corn is still pretty wet at that point, and it'll still continue to dry down as we get closer and closer to harvest, but it's not going to add any more yield. Rain won't help anymore, and the plant is done making what it's going to make. So from that rather unscientific check that we just did in those two spots, our fungicide's not going to pay, our foliars aren't going to pay, the corn's going to yield almost identical on both sides, and none of the stuff we put on mattered. You would have to do a lot more checking and samples in different places to actually be able to reasonably assume that, but we'll see when the combine rolls, won't we? Also would indicate that our yield's going to be in that 195 to 220 range out here, which is good. What I expected over here on that side, not what I expected over there. So who knows? Who knows what we're going to end up with, but at least it's an idea. We're probably going to go check a couple more fields here. All right, I have moved on to another field here in a different variety. I actually have some of the same 111-day corn on the other end of this field. I just looked at it. I didn't really do a yield check because I had just done that in a similar situation. But this one is 110-day 10L16, and it looks different. It looks quite a bit different. Now, none of this was sprayed with a fungicide either, so I expect to see some disease, and the upper canopy looks relatively healthy. And this hybrid has been pretty poor on disease. From what I've looked at so far. There's a lot of northern in it, and there we see some. It's definitely still here. There is some tar spot. There's some on this leaf. But it's not as dead as that other field that we looked at. And, well, I guess when you get down underneath here, the bottom leaves are drying up, but it doesn't look as bad, as much firing on it as that 111 day. So let's do a stand count and pull a yield check here. This hybrid is one that we plant at low populations. It has really good ear flex, really big kernels. So in our kernel calculation there, 90,000 is most likely not going to be accurate. It'll be closer to the 70 than the 90, I would guess. But we'll see what it says. Stand is really good. 33.5 is the average for harvestable ears. I got a 33 and a 34, and I could not have planted this much thicker than that. So that's a good start. They're not the biggest, most impressive ears, but that doesn't look too bad. All right, a little more variation there. We had 14, 16, 16, 16, and an 18 around. A little shorter ears there overall. 32, 30, 38, 31, 35. But our yield calculation, pretty darn similar to our other ones. On the high end, we're in the 250 range. In the normal range, we're right around 200, 195 to 200. So maybe our corn's going to be a consistent 195 to 200 bushel per acre, and I won't complain for 1 second if that's the case. I am trying to be a little bit conservative when I'm doing this. We don't count the butt kernels, the ones right on the bottom of the ear, and we don't count any ones that are less than half size at the tip of the ear either. So yeah, you never know, but we're not doing any extra counting every kernel on the ear, is what I'm saying. There's some of our early beans. You can see they're more and more turning every day. I don't know, I said last week I thought the 15th of September would be close to when we started harvesting. That might be a little optimistic. It might be a few days after that, but it'll be close. All right, we are going to go out and look at this field here. This is my corn on corn. That particular variety is pretty good against tar spots, so I'm curious to see what it looks like. But we're also right across the road from my protecting my drone from the people driving by as I leave it sit on the road. Anyway, the March planted beans are right across the road. They're a different variety than the ones around it. The ones around it are turning, the March ones are not, so we'll get a cool aerial view of that. Yeah, and we're close enough to the farm, and we have a lot of fields that way. We can see quite a bit from where we're at here. tell you what, guys, you're just never done. I thought we were done spraying. I for sure thought we were done spraying bugs. Brock just called me. He's got armyworms in his alfalfa. Brock has 5 acres of alfalfa, but he wants it sprayed, so he asked if he could use our sprayer, and I said, I've got the stuff. I can do it for you. So we gotta go load the sprayer up. We're gonna take a quick yield check here first, but then we're gonna go and do that. So I'm bringing the drone back in. We're gonna land her here and go take our count real quick, and we'll go spray some armyworms. All right, we're gonna take a quick look at this stuff. Oh, what's this? Coon damage. Yep. Coon damage. We'll try and stay out of that because that's not really fair representative to the corn. This is an old standby hybrid we've had forever, 07F23. For those of you familiar with Golden Harvest lineup, I've tried to get them to kill this hybrid over and over, and yet I still plant it, but I bet we've been selling it for at least 10 to 15 years now. But it's consistently good. It has great disease package, which is why I planted it here, because this is corn on corn. It was the only corn on corn that we did. And well, that's where you have the highest disease pressure. So we're gonna look at some stuff a little bit. Why are these plants dead? What happened here? That's interesting. There's about 4 dead plants in a row, and then they're dark green on both sides of it. So I don't know what's going on. I don't see any tar spot in here. This hybrid is as resistant to tar spot as it gets. There is just a tiny little bit. You see a few specks here and there, but that's not what's killing this. So I'm not sure. Anyway, let's do a stand count and pull some ears. This stuff was some of the slowest and worst coming out of the ground. Ground conditions were not perfect when we planted. I thought it was too wet when I was out here, and I probably shouldn't have planted it when I did. It ended up coming okay, and we didn't have to replant. So we'll see. It'll be interesting to see what kind of number I come up with. 31,000 average. That's good. That's really not too bad at all. Some good, some not as impressive. Let's count them up. Well, we're in the same ballpark as everything else. 31,000 plants per acre. We had 16 around on all of them, but that bottom one there was only 12. 38 to 45 in length, and our numbers come back at 198, 223, somewhere in there. They're all about the same. All right, we're gonna go do some spraying. I wasn't planning on this, and I'm sure my video is plenty long already because I've done a lot of stuff with the corn scouting today, so I'm not gonna film a whole lot of it, but I gotta switch nozzles back and flush the boom because we got that Liberty and Roundup in there, and that will kill his alfalfa. So I'm gonna get everything set up and go spray it, and I might film some of me picking on Brock when we're there. Other than that, you guys have seen this. So Brock's got a tiny little 5-acre hay field back here, and there's a pond in the way to get to it. He makes this fun for you. 5 acres, Brock.
I know.
I had to drive more miles to get here than I have acres to spray.
I appreciate it.
Uh-huh.
I really do.
I think it's like around the outside and one pass through the middle kind of deal. I can't guarantee that we aren't going to kill a little bit of this because I sprayed Liberty the last time with the sprayer. I flushed the boom out as best I could before I came.
Start in the back.
Start in the back, he says. We can do that.
Go that way then.
Oh man. I got to use the auto steer for one pass. Half of a pass, actually. We're getting it. So Brock, he caught an armyworm. That's what we're after. They will, that's not an alfalfa leaf, but they'll cut holes in it like that. Essentially, they can defoliate an alfalfa field in a matter of days if they're bad enough. So the fact that he found one means they're probably bad enough that it warrants spraying it, even if it is a giant pain in the butt. Anyway, we got it sprayed. I just ran the sprayer out, and I'm running a rinse cycle through it just to flush that insecticide out of the boom and the tank and everything else. And then we'll just run the sprayer home, and that's it for tonight because it's already 6:30. All right, we're done, and it's almost 7 o'clock, and I'm going home. So After looking at more of our corn today, I'm a little more optimistic than I had been feeling. Some good, some bad, but very consistent across stuff. And it looks like we're right in that 200 bushel range. And for us, that is really good corn. So I'm happy with that if that's where it ends up. We'll see. Anyway, thanks for watching today. Tomorrow we've got more exciting stuff coming here. So Brock should be around tomorrow. We're going to have him hook that mower up because we got to do a little mowing around where that fire was over the weekend and clean some stuff up. They need to get the straw off of there this week, or we're going to do something with it because Dad wants to move some dirt in that field as well. And pretty soon here after Labor Day, we're going to be getting our chicken litter spread on some of that wheat stubble. We've got to get that fit down, worked down with the ripper, which means we got to get the ripper out and go through it. And we're probably going to have some closing disc bearing issues like we did a year ago. You guys remember that? Yeah. And then we'll have to get all that stuff seeded down to our cover crops before we're ready to harvest beans. And that's all coming in the next 3 weeks. So things are about to get a little bit more busy, which is good. And this week we've got just some prep stuff to do. We've got a little mowing to do like that. I want to go through my plots with you guys one day, look at that kind of stuff. I got seed business stuff going on, and Dad wants to go down to Berkey and finish working on that barn. He needs to trim out some windows and then get the steel put up this week, so we might be helping with that one day too. So, lots going on. Stick around with me this week. Thanks for watching. Questions and comments, leave them down below. Don't forget to hit that like and subscribe buttons for me if you would, please. See you guys tomorrow.